and gentlemen, welcome back to Driven Wild. Today, we are talking about DoorDash customers' names being hidden. So if DoorDash is known for anything in the world, it's their continuous attempts to scam their own drivers. And one of the new ways they've been accomplishing this is hiding the name of the customer upon acceptance, which is a lot more frustrating for drivers than you might think, especially with everything else involved. So with that said, I want to go over what people are saying about it, how this heavily affects DoorDash drivers, and what you could do about it to protect you, yourself, and your financial situation. But before we do any of that, let's go over a few disclaimers. The content of this video does not contain and is never intended to be legal, business, financial, tax, or health advice of any kind. This video is for entertainment purposes only. It is advised that you conduct your own research and consult with qualified professionals before applying anything you find online. I also want to be clear that the things we are discussing in this video can be considered market dependent. And what applies to me and my market may not apply to you. So with that said, let's get started. So recently, if you would accept an order on DoorDash, you would go down to see what the customer's name is prior to you showing up to the restaurant itself. It will only show up as customer. Yeah, because clearly we had no idea that the people that would normally be ordering on DoorDash would be considered customers. Clearly, we were supposed to deliver to inanimate objects or puppies. I would deliver to a puppy, by the way. I think they would be a better customer than most other customers. And it doesn't matter where else you would look on the app. The point is, until you arrive to the restaurant itself, you're not going to know what the customer's name is or where it ends up going unless you saw it via the actual route itself and where it ends up going. What if it ends up to a customer that you just don't want to work with? They ended up on your no-go list because they were always irresponsible. They had a gate code that never actually worked, or they never actually answered the call box. They continuously ghosted you. Maybe they have a dog and they just don't put a leash on their dog, and sometimes that's an issue with you completing the order. Maybe it's just the psychopath that is just trying to yell at you or give you a bad rating or claim that you never got the order because they want to utilize the refund method on DoorDash, and you try to report them as an unsafe customer to work with, but DoorDash doesn't actually mark them as unsafe, even though they advertise that that is what they will be doing. And the worst part about all of that is that people are still going to opt into this because they don't want to feel like they drove all the way to the restaurant itself for nothing. They've already made the physical commitment to actually complete the order. So unless something happens at the merchant or the customer does something prior to them picking up the order, they're not going to unassign. And of course, DoorDash doesn't have the balls to explain why they're not showing the customer name anymore. They just want to scam you and put you into positions that are harder to work with. Where is the literal only place you can learn about this? Reddit. Ever since there are a number of orders stolen by bad DoorDashers, DoorDash starts to hide a customer's name until DoorDasher hit the arrive at restaurant. DoorDash knows that bad Dashers would remember the name of customers and come to the restaurant and pick it up, creating difficulty and delay for the next Dasher, and the merchant forcing DoorDash to pay half payments. By hiding the customer's name until Dasher arrive at the restaurant, DoorDash can track down which Dasher really picks up the order. If any Dasher plans to steal, beware and behave. I wonder what else DoorDash would come up to fight against customers pretending to be DoorDashers to steal their own orders and get things for free. I don't think that has anything to do with why this has taken place, because in reality, you can remember a customer's name by marking that you've arrived to the restaurant. Now, the point of them doing this, in my opinion, is that the safety of the drivers has been put into question a lot. So they implemented a safety feature stating that if in the event that a customer is considered unsafe, you can report it to Dasher support or mark it in the app or something to that effect, and they will mark the customer as unsafe. But now some drivers are even proving that they're not doing that, so they're just making an on a no-go list themselves instead of them actually being able to utilize that no-go list they've been building. They're just not showing them the customer name until they arrive to the restaurant, which is irresponsible of DoorDash. And quite honestly, it should be an infringement of the transparency that they claim to have. One person is saying that it's a McDonald's thing, but McDonald's always used a code, not actually said a name, so that's not relevant. One person is saying they're also hiding the distance and the customer's name in their market, so we're not even going to get a mileage anymore. That's completely messed up. Like, Uber Eats has already been playing with the mileage, but now they're not showing that at all. That's completely messed up, in my opinion. All right, so this is a good thing we're confirming. I'm still seeing my customer's name, but this happened to me earlier today. Went to pick up and someone took my customer's order. Okay, first of all, food theft is never okay, but that's a good note on their part, is that they're still seeing the customer's name, so this may just be a pilot program. But let's say this does become a little bit more widespread. More drivers will experience this, right? How will this affect you? Safety. With all safety features that they have been adding, one of the objectively better opportunities among them is the ability to block certain customers and their ability to send you orders specifically, which some people have been proving that false, and instead of actually going through Dasher support, because Dasher support's effectively useless, they developed their own no-go list. If DoorDash isn't going to follow through on their end, why should we work with them? Just cut them out and make your own list. That's what most people have done. Now they're blocking your ability to see the customer's name, making that entire list moot outside of not going to certain restaurants. And again, there's a safety risk to accepting orders from customers who have clearly caused them harm in the past. Whether it's something as simple as causing a contract violation or giving you a bad rating, to something serious like what happened in Tampa where someone was assaulted and violated, or in other cases where people have just been unalived. But then you have the other question of, but they could just unassign the order, right? They have the ability to unassign the order, right? That's not a viable solution. We can't be deactivated on a legal standpoint for not accepting orders, but for accepting orders and unassigning, not only can we be deactivated for falling below 80%, but we could lose access to better programs such as the large order program, which you need to maintain a 95% or better completion rate. And if you don't know what I'm talking about as far as the LOP, I'm going to leave a video in the description talking all about it. Feel free to check that out. But this once again proves that DoorDash not only cares so little about our safety, they are more than willing to put our lives in danger for the sake of lining their own pockets. And not only that, they've proved once again that whatever feature that they're going to implement that we like, they're going to ruin. And that's just a fact. Financially, one of the reasons we don't work with specific customers is because of the financial aspect. And I'm not just talking about the tips and dealing with no-tip customers and low-tip customers. I'm talking to being forced in a position to take customers you wouldn't normally take because of things that happen during said delivery. Or even just on an account level. You accept an order and unassign, right? That not only hurts your completion rating, it hurts your statistics, it hurts your order frequency. DoorDash has been known to slow drivers down. Again, you lose access to the large order program if you do it too much. And not to mention, you take a loss for driving all the way to the restaurant if you are trying to identify who the customer is and you're just like, nope, I refuse to work with that person no matter what. Or you'll follow through with those orders. And all of the customers who you put on the no-go list for the acts that put them on there in the first place, they're going to do again. Wrongfully given contract violations, undeserved bad ratings, micromanagement, wrong address scams, ghosting customers, bad or no codes to call boxes and gated communities. I could go on forever. And these things will not only cause your return on time to just go down, but it will decrease your overall revenue for the day because the time you would be committing to other orders is still spent on those customers. Account stability. I covered this a lot already, so I don't want to dwell too much on this, but with bad customers who you don't normally take comes bad ratings, undeserved contract violations, wrongful deactivations, which sucks because this could easily be avoided if you knew who you were working with in the first place. Now, you could also argue that you wouldn't have that information cancellation unless you accepted the order anyway. But the problem is this actually increases the amount of time the order was still on your phone. You're gonna get to the restaurant, waste all that money to get there, as opposed to seeing it and just unassigning it right away so it can get to another driver. And you can accept other offers. And because this forces a driver to go to the restaurant to see the order, it's gonna force a driver into a decision. Do I take the financial loss and the temporary completion rate damage? Or do I continue the order and the risk of contract violations and other logistical safety nightmares on top of all that, which most people will feel the physical commitment they already made and follow through with the order, taking the latter option and potentially putting their account overall at risk. But what can you do about it? How can you protect yourself from DoorDash and their manipulative tactics on this subject? Diversify, diversify, diversify. And one of the best things you could do for any delivery driver in any situation is diversifying your gig portfolio. That could not be more true than in this scenario. If these companies are okay with bringing your financial situation harm for the sake of their own financial gain, then it is irresponsible to put too much dependence on them. This isn't just for safety or financial prosperity, it's for emotional balance as well. If one account goes away because you got deactivated and you only have one account, you are super dependent on that one income that account generated for you, then your income's going to take a huge hit and you will have no idea what to do, so you panic and you freak out. But if you have multiple accounts and you have one of them go out, at least you have others to fall back on in the event that something happens. That is why it is so important to open up as many gig apps as possible today. Uber Eats, Grubhub, Instacart, Shipt, Roadie, Veho, Amazon Flex, user testing, deliver that, drop off, Walmart Spark. And you don't have to be limited to just having more gig platforms either. You could develop a skill and have a service that you want to provide and build that up as well. Maybe you are pretty good at photography, so you want to do photography for weddings, or you want to do photography for real estate. Maybe you want to be a mobile notary public or a loan signing agent, mobile mechanic. Maybe you want to press into the delivery aspect and go independent courier. The point is that you don't become too dependent on any one source of income in order to get by. Press into your exit strategy. The gig economy is an income bridge to what would be a long-term goal, not the goal. Not only have these companies proven time and time again that they do not care about you, they will do anything to force you in a position to potentially risk your safety if they claim you are to be doing anything, whether you are doing it or not. The reality is that you can't work forever. So it would be wise to develop an income that's independent of your activity. Maybe it's content creation, like on YouTube or your own blog or podcast or whatever. Maybe there's an online store that you can create, whether it's on Shopify or selling on Amazon or eBay or Etsy. Maybe you want to rent out real estate or your car or something to that effect, that you're developing that rental income. Maybe you're investing and you're working with ETFs or developing a dividend portfolio, whatever. But at some point, you're gonna want to be less dependent on gig apps, so that way the money you're earning on gig apps is less about the money you're earning to pay your bills. It's more about money you're just having to have fun. Because you already did the work in so many other areas, any money you make on gig apps is gonna be fun money for you. Or you just leave the gig economy overall. No hard feelings, we get it. But the point is that it's your choice at the end of the day. Raise your standards. I gotta tell you, cherry pickers have it the easiest in this situation because the customers that tip well also rate well. And if you're prioritizing customers that tip well and refusing no tip, low tip, or even just okay tip customers at the end of the day, you don't have to worry about money and safety or otherwise, because hey, you're already taking customers that are doing right by you anyway. So if you're normally accepting borderline okay orders and you get away with that, that's fine. Some people just prefer to stay busy as opposed to fishing and waiting for good orders. In some cases, you're gonna have to accept orders that are going to questionable people in questionable areas. Now, some will argue that if you raise your standards too high, you miss out on high quality orders because of the hidden tip system, which would be true if you're not familiar to how the hidden tip system works on DoorDash, and most experienced drivers have become aware of how the hidden tip system works anyway. If you don't know how it works, or if you kind of got an idea of it, but you don't really know, I made a video on the subject. I will leave it in the description. Feel free to check it out. But again, if you're not a hardcore cherry picker, maybe consider raising your standards even just a little bit higher than a borderline order, because if you accept orders from customers who not only value you and your time, they are safe to work with as well. No-go locations. I'm sure you heard this phrase before. Location, location, location. Probably one of the most important factors in the gig economy, real estate, and many other industries, which it's no surprise that has to do with your income and your overall safety as well. But the better location, the better the pay, the safer you and your account are. What is a quality location though? What is a real quality location? In my experience, it's upper middle class and middle class. You can't get too wealthy, otherwise you'll get the entitled, the greedy, the people who have employees that they don't value, so why would they value you? But you can't go too impoverished either, because they may not even be capable of tipping. They're not exactly the most responsible with their money, and they're in bad neighborhoods overall. Middle class neighborhoods are usually neighborhoods of people, they made the money they have by working hard. They probably worked in the service industry for a season. Those people would have a better understanding on where you are today. Not to say that you will never deal with annoying customers, but they will be significantly reduced. Network with local drivers. I think developing a strong community of local drivers in your area will be a valuable experience for all parties involved. I'm not saying divulge all of your secrets, and I'm certainly not saying give your number out to people if you're not comfortable with it. I would say that is a solid skill to develop, those kind of social skills, because I don't care what industry you go in, that kind of charisma, that kind of socialization is a valuable skill in its own right. But start developing a local online community. People who work in your local area on the apps that you currently work on. So that way you get an idea what people are going through around here. Maybe you're utilizing Facebook groups, Discord servers, WhatsApp, Telegram, Walkie. Maybe you're building an online community. Maybe you're developing that content creation space. And part of that would be developing that local community within yourself. There isn't an online community for the people in my local area. Make one. That is an excellent opportunity for yourself to make that online community in your local area. For gig workers to know what places are best to go to and what places aren't. I'm not saying divulge all your secrets, but keep people aware of what the not so great places are. Not to mention, you'll definitely stick it to the locals on how you shouldn't be treating customers that way. Para. So I'm sure there's at least one person out there who's been wondering, what about Para? Is Para a viable option? To be clear, the program that they offer goes against the TOS of very many gig apps, and there is an inherent risk of deactivation. I'm not sure if they can prove it unless you actually tell them, but in which case shut your damn mouth about it. But the problem is, and again, this is secondhand knowledge, I don't know how factual it is today, Para hasn't worked with DD for a while. If they do, that's great, but if not, the point is moot, and you are adding the additional risk to your account anyway. So is it worth it? I will leave that to your discretion. Contact support. Now there is a trick to finding hidden tips for orders on DoorDash by simply contacting support and asking how much is the payout. I don't know if asking for the customer's name would actually work, but let's say you're trying to get around that question. Here's what I would do. Contact support via phone call, not app, but phone call. Say that your app is acting up, you're having a hard time connecting to the Dasher app, and you've accepted an order and it crashed for no reason. Now it's just having a hard time loading. You think you know the restaurant, but you don't know which one of the locations it is or who who you're picking up for, so you're just asking for the sake of making sure you know where you're going. So that way you can complete it. If they tell you the name of the restaurant, ask them who the order is, so that way you can pick it up. If they say a name that's on your no-go list, see if they'll be willing to unassign it on their end, because the app is glitching out and you don't want to end up with a contract violation because the app is glitching out as much as it is. That being said, even if that does work, right? That's a lot of hoops you're going through just for that one order. When in reality, you could just cherry pick and not deal with that crap at all. Not to mention F-Dasher support. But if you're that hard set on trying to find out the customer name before actually picking it up and you're not willing to do the other things that I've talked about, I guess that's another option. Did I miss anything? Is there something else about the fact that DoorDash is hiding the names of the customers that I didn't yet cover in this video? Let me know in the comments. Let's make sure that every perspective is heard. Any trick that we don't know can be utilized, and every driver can maintain their own safety, and every driver is safe at the end of the day. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. As always, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace!